It is time for MMA Live for Lock right here on Awesemo.com. I am Jason Floyd. That is the fighter, Pete Rogers Jr. Pete, how you doing this Saturday afternoon, man?
What is going on, everybody? How is everybody today?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. We had a little tech issues here in the office, but we are good to go now, man. As to get you ready for UFC Vegas number 17. Of course, as always, be sure to pound that thumbs up button right here on YouTube. If you're not subscribed, you got to subscribe to the channel. We've got a lot of great content here at Awesemo.com, whether it's us with the MMA shows, but also NBA season is here as well. So much we can get into here on this edition of MMA Live Before Lock. But Pete, we got to start off. We did the show Wednesday. We're doing the show Wednesday. Throw it out there. Rick Glenn's off this card, but unfortunately, that's not the only change.
Yeah, man, we've become accustomed to this. So this is like, the norm for us. We kind of knew, like, you and I joked about it. My dad used to promote shows and he'd throw 20 fights on the card in hopes that he'd get 15. And I think that's what the UFC did in this one. We had a couple fall out, but, we have Christos Giagos replacing Rick Glenn. And he's priced up 9,300. So I think that's an interesting fight. And, it kind of makes the slate easier, in my opinion. Like, there's too many things, like when it's an NBA slate and there's 9 games going on and whatnot. That's not really my forte. I kind of like it when it's a smaller slate or smaller fight card.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. It's, it's one of those things of, sometimes it can be hard. I know as I was developing some lineups over the last 24 hours, it was really tough, and we can talk about roster construction of how we're developing our rosters, whether we're talking about GPP, cash, single entry, multi-entry. But, as I was kind of like, I guess my overall always thought process is, okay, who is that fighter I'm starting my lineup with? And this week, like, I feel like you can go so many different directions.
Yeah, I don't really find like one fighter on here that's kind of like screaming my name and I think is like a lock play by any means. It's an odd card, but I guess like of the expensive options, I would probably say Nchukwi is one of the guys that I am somewhat interested in. Like, I don't want to go overweight because it is his UFC debut, but he did look great on the Contender Series. And I actually have some inside information with that fighter because I trained one of his closest teammates. So that's pretty cool. I'm obviously rooting for him. Try not to be biased in that situation, but I do like Nchukwi quite a bit.
Yeah, sometimes it can be tough, when you have a relationship with fighters and camps to where, you just, I mean, look, we can both talk about, we both have we both know Rob Font and Rob is a guy that, obviously a part of the New England cartel as the team that Tyson Chartier has put together, which, really the core of that is him and Calvin Kattar. Rob's actually originally from Tampa. So that's how I knew of Rob. So, that it can be tough a little bit, but obviously he's one of those value plays that we are going to talk about. In terms of, cash lineups, there's some fights that I look at and I say, okay, that's a GPP fight. That's a cash fight. Like GPP, Michelle Pahea, Chaos Williams. That is a GPP fight. That in cash, it's a dangerous fight because literally one guy could get you 100, the other could get you 2.
Yeah.
I look at Tybura and Hardy. I think that's a GPP fight over a cash fight. I think the main event has cash written all over it. I know we kind of talked about it Wednesday and we were talking about it before the show. I think you can look at that fight and you could not necessarily have it in your lineup, but I feel like, I know we said on Wednesday, this really isn't a card to stack. If I'm stacking any fight, it is the main event.
Yeah, I agree. And I definitely think that because we lost 2 fights, and then before that we had a crazy big card, but, maybe stacking the main event is a little bit more viable because of the cancellations. I'm still not going to get to it. I'm really not. But I can't blame you if you want to go that route and hopes that it goes a 5-round decision. That's really the only thing that you are hoping for when you stack a fight is that it goes the distance, obviously. Now, in regards to cash or GPP, I would agree with you that Hardy and Tybura definitely screams GPP because, big heavyweights, it takes one shot to end it. We know that Tybura has been knocked out, I believe, 4 times, and Greg Hardy has some massive power. And we know that Greg Hardy's kryptonite is if he can get put on his back, something that Tybura can definitely excel at. So I'm targeting that fight a lot. And there's another fight that I'm really looking at as far as GPP. And let me tell you, it's that first fight of the night. You have Christos Giagos taking a fight on 2 or 3 days notice, stepping in, trying to cut weight. Now it is at a catch weight of 160 pounds. So he didn't have to really cut down all the way to 155. I kind of looked at his social media and he was staying in shape. But whenever you're having to cut weight on such a short amount of time, he's a big boy. Okay. That's not the best sign for me. But also the fact that in his fights, Jason, he does struggle in the cardio department. So you talk about a last minute weight cut and bad cardio to begin with. Now we're talking about how this fight could be volatile. And I kind of want to smash my exposure to it because Minus is terrible on the ground and Giagos can mix it up and take him down. I'm expecting an exciting fight here at 160 pounds, and I'll have plenty of exposure to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of that question is how much weight did Giagos truly have to cut, in 2 days to make weight? But this is a guy that hasn't fought in well over a year, so that kind of plays into it as well of what potentially, could he look at there? And I know in our premium Slack account, which of course you can always check out myself and Pete in there all the time. Someone asked me like, "Hey, is there any fights you're scratching out? Fights you're fading? Fighters you're fading?" In the one fight that I just feel like, especially on DraftKings, I'm really fading. I'm not going there, but I look at the Sajara, Panty fight. Sajara 8,800 on DK, I think is just a huge price to pay. However, on FanDuel, man, at 14 and 11, that is a tough fight to avoid.
Yeah, target that fight on FanDuel. I think that it can definitely be a part of some optimal lineups. Now on DraftKings, you bring up a good point, and I will say that Eubanks didn't really impress me on the scales. And I know that she struggled on the scales before. And when she stepped on a scale this time, she needed the towel. So that means that she literally cut like the bare minimum to make, which is not a problem. But I don't know. She just looked a little soft to me. Not trying to read too much into that, but I do think that fight will be on the feet primarily. Kianzad will look to keep it up. Definitely holds the volume edge, but Eubanks has pretty good volume as long as she can sustain the pace. It's just usually her cardio drops off a cliff. So she's good for 2 rounds, Jason, and hopefully she can secure some takedowns and work towards a submission because Kianzad's weakness definitely is on the mat. FanDuel, it's a nice spot. I will say the fighter that I'm really light on, right? And it hurts me to say because he's in my top 10 favorite fighters in their prime, is Jose Aldo, man. Mm-hmm. I'm just not pulling the trigger on too much Jose Aldo. If Jose Aldo goes out there and proves me wrong, I'm okay with it. Like, I feel like based on, his recent patch of how he has been, how much damage he's taken, just everything. You talk about a big weight cut. He might be too big for 135. And I know that he's made the weight fine. It's just, he doesn't look so healthy. He looks shredded, but doesn't look so healthy. So that's a fighter that I'm pretty underweight on this week.
Yeah, I would say I'm very underweight on Jose Aldo as well. I think there's a great value there in Chito Vera. Of course, this is MMA Live 4 Lock right here on Awesemo.com. We are leading you up to UFC Vegas number 17. And of course, you can see it right there on the screen. You can sign up for an NBA Weekly Pass for $1 when you use the code Caruso. Of course, NBA preseason wraps up tonight. We have got the start of the regular season on Tuesday, so you got to sign up for NBA Weekly Pass right now for $1 through December the 29th. This is for new members only. When you do use that promo code, it does give you access to our projections, ownership projections, our Slack channel, the lineup builder, and so much more. Just a little note on this is that during the preseason, which tonight is the last game of preseason, there are no projections. So sign up today. Go to awesemo.com/join. Use that promo code Caruso as unfortunately I wasn't paying enough attention to my lineups last night, Pete. Had Damian Lillard in the lineup. Yeah.
Oh, let me tell you that the NBA preseason has been pretty good for me, and I've enjoyed it quite a bit, especially if you are really paying attention to minutes and Twitter and all that stuff. And, the Slack channel definitely helps. So you guys definitely have to pay attention to that. But, Drummond being out, Lillard being out, Giannis being out, it was some scrambling going on. And I still enjoyed the slate, but it definitely wasn't the best of the preseason for me.
Yeah, News God does a tremendous job in our
It's
Slack
amazing.
channel of letting us know exactly when things are going down, lineups going down. That's it's always preseason's kind of weird. How many minutes the guy can get, but you got to
Yeah.
check out, take advantage of that deal right now for new members only. NBA Weekly Pass for $1 through December 29th. When you use that promo code Caruso. Let's move on to value plays on DK, and what we consider a value play are fighters under 8,000. So when you look at some of the fighters who would be under 8,000 right in the main event, Stephen Thompson, 7,800, Marlon Vera, 7,600, Chaos Williams, 7,900. That's a GPP fight as well. Him and Michelle Pay, Rob Font, 7,200, Marcin Tybura, 7,700, Alex Morono, 7,000, Penny Kianzad, 7,400, Deron Wynn, 7,300, Jamie Pickett, 6,800, Cody Durden, 7,500, and Carlton Menas, 6,700. There is some intriguing plays to me on DraftKings when we're talking about this under 8,000. Stephen Thompson, prefer more in cash than I do GPP. But then when I look at some other ones, Chaos Williams has been tremendous. I think that if that fight's going to end quickly, I think it's going to be on the Chaos Williams side. Now, I think the longer that fight goes on, I think the more you do favor Michelle Pahea in that one. We talked about Rob Font a little bit. Marcin Tybura, he's up there probably my favorite under 8,000 plays here, just primarily because you got to imagine, look, he's going to want to take this fight to the ground. We were talking about this a little bit before the show of, can he make this a slow down fight?
I think he should, and I think he can. You look at what he's really kind of molded his game into lately, and he's looked impressive. And he's always been able to compete on the feet, but he's had defensive lapses. So that's where he's been knocked out in the past. Now, obviously, if you get caught with a shot from Greg Hardy, you're probably going to be staring at the lights. But I do feel like outside of a knockout shot, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that Tybura is just the better overall fighter. He really is. He checks more boxes than Hardy does. And it's only because Hardy's so green. And, Hardy makes plenty of mistakes. Now, what happens if Hardy's actually on his back? How is his cardio? How is his get up ability? Can he stand up? What happens if Tybura takes his back, mount? How is his jiu-jitsu on the mat? So there's so many questions. And I know that it's a volatile fight. So obviously, if you're rostering Hardy Tybura, expect have low expectations, because you honestly could be on the wrong side of it with, single digit, stats. You could have 9 points because, one shot is landed, but I do favor Tybura. I think he takes him down, just implements strong jiu-jitsu, top game, and maybe gets a finish. We shall see. But, heavyweight fights usually go one of two ways. It's a quick finish, or it's a sloppy, they're both exhausted slugfest, kind of leaning against the cage and pressing each other back and forth, fighting for underhooks. So, in that case, obviously, if it's a slow-paced fight, maybe it's not going to be a part of an optimal, but I feel like this one is going to be a part of an optimal.
Yeah, I just feel, I'm with you on there. Now, let's look on the FanDuel side of things, under $15. So we're looking at Chito Vera at $13, Rob Font, $11, Thalia Santos, $14, Alex Morono, $10, Penny Kianzad, $11, Deron Wynn, $12, Jamie Pickett, $9, Cody Durden, $12, and Carlton Menas at $8.
Yeah, so bouncing between DraftKings and FanDuel, I will say that this week probably 3 underdogs are in the optimal lineup. I feel like there's so many underdogs in actual good spots that unlike many weeks where you're kind of just reaching. I feel like all those options, right? Like Marlon Vera to me shouldn't be the underdog. I don't really. It's close, but like the pricing on both sites is a little crazy. Rob Font has a legitimate chance to win. Obviously, the only thing concerning us in that matchup is his return from knee surgery. I do think $11 and $7,200, it's a great value. I have plenty of him. Tybura, we talked about it, coin flip fight. Alex Morono, completely disrespected based on DraftKings and FanDuel, $10 and $7,000 respectively. It's kind of like he holds the volume edge. And has the momentum on his side in this matchup. Pettis, you're paying for the name and hoping that he can kind of find his old self and work towards a KO or a finish. But, if you look at Pettis' previous performance against Cowboy Cerrone, doesn't really give you the most confidence. And then there's Deron Wynn, Keonza. I like everybody, honestly. This is a week where I have plenty of exposure, a little bit here, a little bit there. I can make an argument for plenty of them. And I will say that Carlton minus here at $8, people are going to hate on him because he's probably not UFC level. But how often do fighters that aren't the better fighter win? It happens. I mean, they just need an on night. Yeah. Carlton Minus could just have more gas in the tank than Christos Giagos. And as long as he's not put on his back 15 times, maybe he can steal a decision. So I'm overexposed to the first fight, and I can't wait.
And on FanDuel at $8, if he can stop some takedowns, he might be someone in cash you look at as if you're looking to save some money. Maybe you'd rather. Now, personally, I'd rather pay $2 more for Alex Morono. What I think what you're going to see from Morono is I believe he's going to try to push the pace on him, on Anthony Pettis. This is a big match. I believe this is Anthony Pettis' last fight on his UFC deal. If not, he's maybe got two more fights or one more fight after this, but he's at the end of his UFC deal. So I think that's something to play there. You mentioned about Deron Wynn. I know someone in chat's already asked us about Anthony Arroyo. Here's my concerns with Deron Wynn. Deron Wynn is a incredible wrestler. Everyone knows that. You talk to anyone at AKA, they will tell you how great he is. I don't know if Daniel Cormier is on the call for this one. Whatever Daniel Cormier likely says on this broadcast about Deron Wynn, just remember he's going to be extremely biased. He's Deron Wynn's manager. Okay, so that is something to play in there. So hopefully DC's not on the call because that really puts DC in a bad spot. But it's at 195. He should be fighting at like 170. He shouldn't be fighting at this high up weight. So that kind of concerns me there. But Deron Wynn could potentially, especially on a DraftKings slate with those takedowns, could lead to a good score.
Yeah. So, that's a fight that it's just so ugly that we're probably going to need exposure to it. Deron Wynn has landed 7 takedowns in the UFC at a clip of a little over 2 per fight, which is pretty good. And then if you actually check out how many times Antonio Arroyo has been taken down in his one UFC fight, not counting the Contender Series, he was taken down 3 times. So it's a clear advantage for Deron Wynn in the grappling and I shouldn't say grappling, in the wrestling department. He's the smaller statured fighter, definitely going to be undersized. Antonio Arroyo looked like a giant. It's literally David and Goliath here. But you might have to roster Deron Wynn based on the takedown potential. And Antonio Arroyo is really, really bad at defending takedowns. I know that 6'3" versus 5'6", which is crazy. Arroyo could be strong enough and big enough to work back to his feet and ultimately land a KO blow as one of the best left kicks in the business. So I do have exposure to this fight. I really don't know what to make of it. I don't know how serious Wynn has taken his career. Why are you taking a fight at 195 pounds? Come on, man. And especially if you got this is what I'm saying, where sometimes fighters have yes men around them or people kind of just inflating their ego. You need people that are going to be real with you and put you in check. Dude, Deron Wynn, 195 at 5'6" is just not logical. Put some time in. Let's drop you down, and you'll start to really have more of an advantage over your opposition. You could do this regionally competing that high at that, 5'6", but in the UFC, it's just not going to work.
No, I'm with you on that one. I'm totally with you on that one. Now let's look at in terms of DraftKings, the high end options, the 9,000 options. So we got a couple of 9,000 options. Marlon Moraes at 9,000, Anthony Pettis 9,200, Inquechi 9,400, and also Christos Giagos at 9,300. What kind of sticks out to you here?
Well, I will say that Nchukwi is a nice one because we talked about it. He's so defensive minded, right? That when you're so defensive and so sharp defensively, obviously you make less mistakes, right? That sounds like, that's obvious. Jamie Pickett is literally, he's wild, makes a ton of mistakes. So you have a technician in Nchukwi against a brawler in Pickett who definitely can end the fight in one shot. 82% finish rate of Pickett's 11 victories. 100% finish rate for Nchukwi. Relatively green in MMA, I would say. Trains with Team Lloyd Irvin, but was a Muay Thai champion. So we have to hold that into some regard, right? I don't want people to think that Nchukwi only has 4 fights because, experience under the lights is experience under the lights. So Nchukwi is a good 9K option. I like him. Giagos definitely has potential here because, Carlton Minus, I don't think is UFC level. And I know I was talking up Carlton Minus as a punt play, but if Giagos goes the takedown route mixed with high volume, he definitely can do that, but he will run out of gas. Pettis and Moraes are kind of like tied for me of I don't really trust either one. Marlon Moraes is coming back from, suffering a KO loss to Corey Sandhagen. And I don't like backing fighters when they come back from a knockout loss so quickly. We just saw it last weekend with Junior Dos Santos coming back after getting knocked out by Jairzinho Rosenstruck. Okay, now it's completely different weight classes, but that's what I don't like backing fighters like that. Like Marlon Moraes here, coming back from a KO loss, Font coming back from an injury. Maybe those kind of cancel each other out, maybe because Font might be tentative. But yeah, I don't know how you really feel confident in it, but you might have to roster either one of those guys, Pettis or Moraes.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I don't feel comfortable in rostering Anthony Pettis. But, I mean, look, it's a big matchup for him here. Now, let's move on down to the $20 plus options over on FanDuel. What's kind of your take there?
Well, Thompson at 20, based on, low volume, under 4 strikes per minute, just the way he is stylistically, very patient. And when you're patient in a 5-round fight, sometimes it's not going to be optimal. Obviously, every fight is different. If he goes out there and puts Jeff Neal away because Jeff Neal gets overzealous, obviously things can change. But for me, 53% finish rate for Stephen Thompson. He just likes to pick his opponents apart. You saw it in the Anthony Pettis fight. Then slipped up for a second, got caught with a Superman punch. Not really getting there on FanDuel for me. I'm really underweight on the main event. I told you that. I love Stephen Thompson. He's one of my favorite fighters, if not my favorite fighter of all time. Anthony Pettis at 20, Nchukwi 23. Goodness gracious. I might actually be underweight on all 20 options besides Nchukwi.
Yeah, he was the guy that I felt the most confident in going in the MVP route on FanDuel. I will tell you, I do have Thompson as MVP. I do have Jeff Neal as MVP. Who else did I have as MVP? And Giagos. That was another guy I put in the MVP spot.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard with that MVP because the fighters that you often think are going to smash in it, there's no Francis Ngannou this week that I think is just the absolute monster play in that captain or MVP spot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at our MVP projections, and usually it's you'll have 2 that are just above everyone else. This week, you've kind of, it's not really a large margin, so it's going to be kind of all over the place if you're playing on FanDuel or if you maybe do the captain contests on DK, which I'm just not a big fan of. That's just not a big fan of me.
Yeah.
In terms of some betting line movement that we've seen, most notably with the main event, Stephen Thompson opened up as a -170 favorite in this one. He's now it's a straight pick'em fight, -105. The Chaos Williams line has moved a little bit as well. Looking at some of the line movement that we have seen over the last 24 hours, Stephen Thompson has moved the most. The second most, Alex Morono.
I think that's fair. I do think that's fair.
Yeah, it got bet up to about -200 at one point. Now it's at +170. So that is something to check out. Of course, when you're looking to make a bet on the fight and you want to find out who has got the best line out there, you got to go over to Awesemo.com and OddsShopper. Oddshopper.awesemo.com. Don't make a bet without shopping for the correct price first. We've got all the lines up there. You can find out which book has a price. Also, if you sign up, you can get notified when the line hits a exact number that you're looking for. So check that out right now over at OddsShopper at oddshopper.awesemo.com. You can sign up today. Also, you can track your bets for free as well. So be sure to sign up right now there at OddsShopper at awesemo.com. In terms of some prop bets out there, I didn't have a chance to really dive too deep into them. I would say the more I thought about this one, Pete, the more I thought about we might have more decisions than we maybe thought.
Yep, I tell you, I feel like it's going to be a long night. Not as long as before because we lost some fights, but I do think that this is going to be some underdogs winning some close fights. Let's say that.
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting night. Of course, we will answer your questions now. We're going to get into those. Of course, if you want to jump to the front of the line, you could do that in our premium Slack account, or if you leave us a super chat, we will get to your questions there as well. Of course, I work my way down the questions, but we'll start off over in YouTube to get some of the questions that are in here. Let's see here. Got to scroll down a little bit here to get to the first question. This comes from Miles. Who scores more in a win, Chaos or Pahea? And is the other still viable option at MVP on FanDuel?
Well, I would imagine that's a tough fight to call. Definitely is. Michel Pahea probably has the more well-rounded game. More subs on his record. The Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu edge in its slight. Capoeira, so it's always a tricky style to deal with. My problem with Michel Pahea is the fact that he is just so reckless. Like, he'll start doing backflips and somersaults and all these crazy techniques that maybe a Chaos Williams guy, he's literally just going to just make him pay for those mistakes. And if Chaos Williams touches you, you're going to get hurt. So in a win, I would say Williams would score higher than Pahea.
Yeah, someone had mentioned about looking at Jillian Robertson because of ownership. And I will tell you this, there's a lot of interesting plays that we're projecting ownership of under 25%.
Really?
Oh yeah. There is some, like, I'll give you one fight. Let me roll over to DraftKings here. This is a fighter that is 21%. Cheeto Vera.
Yeah, I'm all over that. I'm all over that. I think that Marlon Vera goes out there and competes on the feet and can potentially work towards a finish. I feel like Aldo's kind of just washed at this point, and I want to be respectful, but I just don't feel like 135 pounds and all the damage he's taken over his past couple losses. I don't think it's a good recipe.
Marcos mentioned something that Tybura said in an interview. Let me just tell you this, as someone who has done fighter interviews for a very long time, don't always take what they say as a grain of salt. They lie to you.
Oh, yeah.
They lie.
Absolutely.
Like, literally, I can do an interview with Pete. Pete's like, oh, I'm going for a takedown. Yeah, BS.
Well, sometimes fighters play that mental warfare.
It's a smart thing to do. It is exactly because your opponent, your opponent's manager, your opponent's coaches, they are all watching these interviews because they want to see what does that fighter say.
Yeah, like maybe like in Greg Hardy and Marcin Tybura, like if Tybura is like, no, I want to prove my boxing and kickboxing is good, that could literally just be a strategic ploy. But we all know what Tybura is going to do. He's going to strike on the feet and work towards taking him down.
Interesting question here from Kilo Whiskey in our premium Slack account. He says, Santos and Robertson, a scramble fest to target on DraftKings, tons of takedowns and advances.
I think that it might be better on FanDuel if Santos is able to stuff some takedowns. I do think that at 14, she is interesting. Now on DraftKings, because it's mid-priced, 8,200, 8,000, I have plenty of exposure. It's just natural when you're in that, flat mid-range right there. I do think that maybe Tyler Santos is strong enough and has good enough takedown defense to defend what Robertson kind of throws at her. Robertson has been on a heater, though. She is 6-2 in the UFC and has started to develop. So I see what they're saying. It's a scramble fest, and I like it. I'm targeting it a lot.
Someone basically mentioned about could we lose any more fights? At this point, the only way you would lose a fight would be there was some medical condition with the doctor saw something backstage in a pre-fight screening. The other thing is they do take a COVID test on weigh-in day, but those test results should be back already. So they would probably, when you're talking about the fight starting here in under an hour, you would know that. So I don't want to say we're confident, but we feel pretty good. We've got a 12-fight card.
Yeah, guys, don't be over here cursing us now. We don't need any cancellations.
Yeah. Flick, Hardy, or Robertson?
I will say that I think Jimmy Flick has probably the highest upside next to Hardy, and it's because of how talented he is in the submission department. Jimmy Flick, for a 125 pounder, he hunts submissions. I say it every time, like Brandon Royval. 87% finish rate out of 15 victories. In his defeats, though, he has been TKO'd. So he's been rocked. When his submission game doesn't work, or when you have a submission artist on their back throwing up submission, and a guy's able to implement some strong ground and pound and good submission defense, that's probably, guys are comfortable being on their back. And if Flick is comfortable being on his back, I'm afraid he might lose some rounds to Durden. But the quick sub is there, man. Like Flick is some people are finishers and some people aren't. Flick is in that category. If you're going by finish rate, Flick 87% finish rate, Hardy 86% finish rate, Jillian Robertson 78% finish rate. And I would kind of rank them like that as far as GPPs.
Andrew says, fading the main event since most likely Wonderboy just going to run circles, jab plus push kick.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of side kicks, a lot of feints, a lot of back fists. I am super underweight on the main event, so that's just my personal take. I wanted to have more combinations and exposure to the other fights. Now, obviously, if Neal and Thompson go out there and they have a good performance, I'm probably not going to have the best lineups, but I think my exposure rating for the main event lied within 15%, 20%. So you can see I'm taking an aggressive stance this week.
Obviously, you have got that karate striking background.
Yeah.
If you're Jeff Neal and you're his corner, how do you make sure he doesn't get frustrated to where, because we have seen this with, like you think back in the day when people go up against Lyoto Machida, they would just get so frustrated at a point, they run right into a knockout. What do you think the message was to Jeff Neal leading up this fight on how to make sure you don't get frustrated when maybe there's a lack of action?
I think it's patience and angles, because anybody that is coming straight forward at a karate fighter, I started off with an extensive karate background. You're going to run into a lot of side kicks, run into a lot of straight punches. So I do like the fact that Jeff Neal is a part of a good camp. They should be looking to basically battle having that lead foot of Jeff Neal's on the outside of Stephen Thompson to set up that big left hand or potentially that left kick. Now, I do feel like when you're fighting a guy that is so talented with distance, you have to, basically smother that kicking distance. So you either need to be all the way out, right, where he can't touch you, or you have to be within a phone booth, making it ugly. I think that Neal will hold the advantage in the clinch department because I just don't like what I'm seeing out of Stephen Thompson. But this is going to be a weird fight, in my opinion. Going to be a patient. They have a lot of respect towards another, and when you see that too, you kind of might see them a little bit tentative. And that's my approach on it this week. I do think that Neal has the finish ability, though.
Let me ask this. When you look at the fighters under 7,500 on DK, does Deron Winn have the highest upside?
Under 75. I think it's close. I think it's close. I think
especially with if he goes down, if he's going to go to Takedown City here, that's where I think he could have a massive upside.
Yeah, I definitely. That's a great path to victory here for Deron Winn. I will say that Alex Morono, though, at 7K flats, another one that has high potential based on volume of strikes. And, Pettis is tough. Pettis isn't just going to fold. He'll kind of mentally check out, but physically he'll still be there. And when you have an opponent like that, that could possibly lead to more significant strikes. I think that the pricing should be a lot closer than what it is. But Deron Winn definitely has that Takedown City approach and, potential there. So I have plenty of Deron Winn.
Legalize over in our chat says Vera or Robertson. He goes, I think Robertson submits Santos.
Okay, well, I have something for you.
So you got Marlon Vera at 7,600, Jillian Robertson's 8,000.
Yeah, I like the discount personally. And the thing about Tyler Santos, right, is that she hasn't been submitted. So I don't know, man. I'm trying to find this right here. Tyler Santos hasn't been submitted and hasn't been knocked out. And to think that Robertson's going to go in there and do it, she has shown potential. She's a great finisher, but I just feel like Santos might be a little bit too wise. And that's kind of why I'm favoring Santos in the matchup.
Mr. Bubbles says, thoughts on my cash lineup: Yagos, Morono, Nchukwi, Neal, Thompson, Robertson. Yeah.
Don't stack the main. I don't think you need to stack it. If anything, take one.
I'm not opposed to stacking in cash. Now, look, it's got to go 5 rounds.
Cash lineup?
Yeah, cash lineup.
Okay, so
I will say this.
Distance,
I am playing more cash these days than I am GPPs.
Yeah, not me. I wish MMA cash was better. Like, I wish there was like a ton of different smaller tournaments for GPPs and a ton of, so that we, people could experiment a little bit more.
Yeah, cash is much better on DK. Much better.
Yeah.
FanDuel cash is not good.
FanDuel anything is not good.
Yeah, or for you, yes. I have some success over FanDuel, even though NBA pricing is god awful. God awful. You can literally draft anyone you want. They literally might as well not put a salary on anybody because there's no way to spend all the salary.
I know. It's crazy.
Literally, KD was $1,000. Kyrie Irving, $1,000.
Yeah, see? Crazy.
Yeah. Let's go next up. Let's see here. Font or Morono? I would prefer Alex Morono.
Yeah, so let's talk about Marlon Moraes, right? Like Marlon Moraes, when he was brought into the UFC, he was, thought of as being the next big thing. And, to a point he is. My problem with backing Marlon Moraes so much and why I do think Font's a good value is because Marlon Moraes is his cardio is always in question. He has so much muscle for that division that if somebody's able to keep a high pace and they're durable, we have seen what happens to Marlon. He falls behind, and he can get finished coming back real quick. So I think Font's a good play, but there's so many questions regarding Font too. I would much prefer Alex Morono in that situation.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Yagos or Arroyo?
Gosh. Well, Jagos should have a cupcake matchup here, right? Like, if you look at what Carlton Minus is compared to what Jagos has faced in his UFC career, Carlton Minus is like a regional talent that's kind of just under the UFC label. But taking the fight on 3 days' notice is always a worry. Now, if he goes in there and pulls a Justin James and he's ready, like that's awesome. But he's priced up for it, right, Jason? Like you're not really getting a discount. I would be backing Giagos if he wasn't, in the 9K. Now that he's 9K, we got to think about, okay, does he really pay it off?
Next up, MJ had asked about Flick and Durden. I want to know about that fight. And says, does Durden have a chance? Yes, he has a chance. I guess I'll rephrase this to you is, how does Cody Durden get the job done?
Cody Durden's got to, I'd say keep it on the feet and intelligently mix in takedowns. Now, when you intelligently mix in takedowns, you have to be careful with your neck. Let's not go and try to compete jiu-jitsu with him because, like, we know Jimmy Flick is so good. He's able to chain submission attempts together back and forth. Durden has been submitted once in the past. Okay. Flick has 13 submissions on his record. So that's awesome. Now, on the other side of that, Durden needs to just, if he gets top position, just lay some heavy ground and pound because he is cutting down to 125 pounds. Should be the bigger, stronger guy here. And Flick has been knocked out 4 times. I think that Durden he definitely has a shot.
Mr. Bubbles asking if we like the over 1.5 rounds in Chaos Williams and Michelle Pahea.
Over?
Yeah, over.
Well, it's a contrarian prop. It really is.
Here's the problem with that. It's minus money.
The over 1.5?
The over 1.5 is minus 132. The under 1.5 is plus 117.
Interesting.
Yeah. Sometimes you can't you don't always get the best number. Let me see here. Flick or Neal on DraftKings?
GPP, it has to be Flick for me as far as like potential. You guys know that I think that Jeff Neal's up against a very tough strategic battle. It's going to be a chess match, and chess matches sometimes don't result in great DFS performances. Now, Jeff Neal, if you look at what he's done and you're kind of looking at his box score, so to speak, great performance, like he's a stud. Like he's a stud, and he's backed by a good camp. Thompson, I don't think is what he used to be, but he can still frustrate you enough so that, and he's smart that maybe he doesn't get finished early.
Of course, this is MMA Live for Lock right here on Awesemo.com. Of course, when you're a premium member to Awesemo.com, that gives you access to our premium Slack account where you can talk MMA with myself and Pete. Josh is always in there. The whole staff here at Awesemo is always in there. Of course, we'll be in there during the fights. And, of course, if you ask a question here in our premium Slack channel, we will get you to front of the line. So that's a great perk we have over at Awesemo.com. If you're a member, of course, you can sign up today. Go to Awesemo.com/join. Joel says, does Jimmy Flick break the slate?
If he wins, he's going to have a lot of points if he wins, right? And you can't say that for many fighters. I don't have him winning the fight in most of my lineups. I think that Durden's a tough task, and I'm excited for the fight, though.
Someone asked about Talia Santos, viable MVP. I would not feel good, but you will be contrarian.
Very contrarian.
Let me ask you this. Who are you overexposed on? For me, it's easy. I think it's Alex Morono.
Let me see. Who am I overexposed to?
I'm guessing you're overexposed. I'm going to say Chito Vera. That's my guess.
It's a good one. I think I'd agree with that. I have plenty of Nchukwi in hopes that he can stay tight, technical, and avoid the big shot.
Miles says, does Tybura score enough in a win on FanDuel? Here, okay. I'll put it this way. Here's where I think Tybura winning is not optimal. It's a clinch-based fight. They don't give him credit for significant strikes landed, and you're going to hate Fight Metric.
Yeah. That's definitely possible. What happens, right? If he takes Greg Hardy down, Greg Hardy is literally exhausted and, just lays on him, gets some advances, some ground and pound, and maybe that pace or that style of a fight. You saw that it looked like Greg Hardy was going to quit. And this is fights ago. We're talking fights ago. But I think that style can bring that out. And, that pressure-based style is not one that is welcoming.
Joe, appreciate you in the super chat. He goes, you know what time it is? Is my famous question and y'all's favorite question to answer. Who is or are the locks of the night? Who should score well?
What's up, Joe? I would say that the L word. We don't throw the L word around here. We don't do that. But
that's your favorite. What are you talking about? That's your favorite word. What are you talking about?
I will say Nchukwi if I have to, and that's really not telling you much because he is 9,400. I do feel pretty confident that he's too tight and technical and he gets it done.
Yeah, he's the one I would say I probably had the most confidence in. In terms of scoring the highest, Christos Giagos could score a good amount. Deron Wynn's got sleepy, high upside potential. And Jimmy Flick may be another one that could score a ton.
Yeah, I don't hate anything you said.
Well, I'm glad you agree with me for once. Who scores more in a win? Marlon Vera or Marcin Tybura?
I think Marlon Vera. I do, because I think a TKO is definitely possible. It's a good question though. Fair question. You guys are pretty sharp.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Ray says, he goes, last week I won because of main event stacking, but that was a whole different amazing fight. I was nervous though it didn't go 5 rounds. Yeah, Brandon Moreno, I guess
Yeah.
you'd kind of say the loser because he didn't win the title. He was actually in the optimal. I want to say on both DK and FanDuel.
It was a great fight. Yeah, but lighter weight class, more activity, more cardio. It was a recipe for success. 170 pounds. You have a high volume Neal against a low volume Stephen Thompson, but you have to basically decrease Neal's volume because he can't be as reckless in this fight. So for me, it's a no stack for me, dog.
Yagos or Pettis, DraftKings GPP.
Well, I'm underweight on both, truthfully.
Yeah, I'm extremely underweight on Pettis. I mean, I look at throughout this card, I think of fighters that they weren't really high exposure for me. I look at Anthony Pettis. I look at Jamie Pickett, Sijara Eubanks, Robertson, and Santos, because that's a coin flip fight for me.
Yeah, I mean, what I did is I smashed exposure to the first fight. Like I had plenty of combinations with that first fight because I do think people are completely writing off Carlton Minus for good reason. The skill gap between him and UFC fighters is pretty wide, but if he can keep it on the feet, he has decent volume. Has the volume advantage over Christos Giagos. Just has horrible takedown defense, like horrible. You can even look at his regional tape. And if Giagos runs into some trouble, he takes him down, he controls the fight. Next thing you know, Minus isn't going to be doing anything. But at 6,700, if this stays on the feet and Giagos has poor cardio, I think it's interesting.
Now, this is a FanDuel GPP question. Vera, who is $13, or Rob Font, who is $11. Neither one of those fights are fights you expect to hit the floor. So that takes out the part of the FanDuel equation of potential takedown defenses.
Yeah. Well,
I'd feel more comfortable going with Vera over Font. Just because the one thing about Marlon Moraes, look, guy's got incredible power at 35. Yeah. But the one thing you do see from him is if you are able to get out of that first round and look, I have a good relationship with Rob Font's coach and manager, Tyson Chartier, so maybe I'm a little blinded, and I'll admit that. But I think Tyson is one of the most underrated game planners in MMA right now.
Yeah, extensive game planning.
I've seen the sheet he puts together. It's extremely extensive.
Yeah, it's good. But all that is thrown out the window once that cage door locks. You can have the best game plan in the world, and it doesn't matter once you get hit sometimes. I will say that Vera, in my opinion, I like him a little bit more than Font in the underdog role. Jason, we got 300 people watching us right now. We appreciate you guys. This is the last card of 2020, so let's go out with a bang. Hit that like button if you appreciate this show. Get us over 120. I would really appreciate that. We're coming back in 2021 with great cards and tons of new information and stuff. So can't wait to continue to put out great content for you.
Someone asked about a captain pick on FanDuel for single entry, which would differentiate their lineup. I would say do not look at one of the fighters in the main event.
Yep. If you want to be different, you don't put the main event and you don't put a heavy favorite.
Yeah. Yeah. I would sit there and say, if you really want to look at, the problem is Michelle Pahea may not be bad, but man, it's just that fight can go either way. This is, it's a tough week. It's a tough week when you're talking about that MVP spot.
Yeah.
I would look at, you mentioned about going away from the top dogs here. If you're looking for maybe an underweight, Jimmy Flick may be the guy.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all.
Yeah. Edward brings up this point. He goes, when you look at Santos' competition, it looks really bad. 8 fighters have never won. Robertson has been hot. How do you guys think Santos is overrated here? I mean, look, sometimes you can look at what a fighter did pre-UFC, and Chaos Williams, perfect example of this. You know, you saw things on film, you looked who he fought, you know, and maybe you're like, I don't know, and then comes in and he needs less than a minute to win 2 fights. So yeah. It's something, you know, it's something you have to look at, but it can't be the total package you look at.
Yeah, I mean, so Santos, besides dropping that fight in the UFC, she was undefeated. You know, 15-0 is a big deal. Like 15-0, no matter what competition you're facing, that's a big deal. Like that's difficult to do, regardless of who you're fighting. Now, it is a massive step up in competition against Jillian Robertson. I definitely preferred the fight against Montana De La Rosa. I thought that was going to be a very easy fight for her to get a W here. Now, she has to be on her A game here, because she slips up or ends up on her back, Robertson definitely will chain together something and get a finish. I don't foresee that happening in this matchup. And if you're looking at records, Robertson at 9-4 is a lot better than 9-4.
Of course, be sure to follow Awesemo on social media, and our Twitter account is at Awesemo_com. Of course, content's always going out on that Twitter account. Also, be sure to follow the MMA account as well, Awesemo Mma Dfs, for all of the MMA coverage we have there. As we'll drop a little hint, Pete's got some coverage coming for you in 2021, so you gotta look forward to what is to come here. Next up, Miles says, who would you feel a least tiny bit comfortable on FanDuel MVP? Flick, Hardy, Vera.
Who would I feel the worst?
Feel the most comfortable with.
Feel the most comfortable. Well, I mean, Hardy's style, you know, he really kind of fits that MVP role, right? Like if you're going to look at MVPs, regardless of context, right? And you want to see what fighters can really do it for you, you need guys that can get you quick finishes like a Francis Ngannou. If I'm going down the list, right? Chaos Williams is one, but you mentioned Greg Hardy. I think that he's in a good spot. So I would probably, because of the scoring on FanDuel, he's going to have to defend takedowns against Marcin Tybura, which is huge, especially for, you know, the bonus points over there. And if he does win, it's probably via knockout. I can't see him being better than Marcin Tybura for 3 rounds. I really can't.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's GPP written all over it, but I think on the Tybura side, I think there's also his concerns there that maybe it's not the greatest score there, but yeah. Josh goes, what about Jamie Pickett MVP?
Super contrarian.
All caps.
But, yeah, I don't hate it because he does have an 82% finish rate. And if you look at when Jamie Pickett lands, he rocks people. And I will say that Nchukwi, in his debut on the Contender Series, you know, you can't be completely perfect, and some shots will find their mark. And you saw Nchukwi get rocked a little bit right up the middle. And if Pickett hits him, you wonder how you know that affects him. So 6,800 for a guy that knocks a lot of people out and has a massive MMA experience advantage. You know, 15 fights to 4 MMA fights. I don't hate it, but it's probably not going to happen.
By the way, lock is at 4 p.m. Eastern time. That is when the prelims will start on ESPN Plus. So I know somebody had asked about that, and yeah, ESPN and ESPN Plus for the prelims at 4 p.m. Eastern time. So that is the lock. Even though we did lose some fights, it did not change the lock time. Captain on DraftKings, Arroyo or Chaos Williams?
It'd be Williams for me.
Yeah.
Less worry for getting just completely grappled.
Hardy or Yagos Draftkings GPP?
Yagos.
Yagos or Nchukwi Draftkings GPP?
Nchukwi for me.
Someone asked about stacking the fight with Pickett. No way. No.
No, I'm telling you, you don't really need to stack a fight this week. I don't think that there's any reason to.
You know,
there's a bunch of underdogs in good spots.
You know what that means, right?
Yeah, it's some insignificant fight like the Hardy Tybura fight is going to be in it.
No, if
Can you
Hardy
imagine
no way, bro,
a
no way.
heavyweight stack? A heavyweight stack?
If you told me there's a fight that is optimal as stacked, it's got to be the main event. It has to be.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, when people are so cheap, Jason, it definitely brings, and it's definitely worth discussing.
Yeah,
I just don't really see it.
I don't think this is a hard roster construction week. It's just it's kind of what spots are you picking to go under 8,000 on DK? You know, what spots are you going with the 7,700, 76, 75? I mean, that to me is like, it's not one of those situations where you're putting a lineup together and you're just like, man, I do not like, you get down to those last two spots of your lineup and you realize you got to take two underdogs and you're just like, oh God, there's just no one I like.
Yeah, I think that this week 3 underdogs win. But it's all like probably closely contested bouts.
Yeah, I might go more than 3.
Yeah, I mean, there are some weeks where you're looking at underdogs and you're like, okay, this should be cut and dry of who's going to go in there and get a W. I think it's going to be a weird week.
But like you look at it, and there was, we talked about it on Wednesday, you talked about it, and someone in chat just mentioned this is a card that could have a lot of decisions. Like you go down the card, Thompson, Neal, I would say good chance that goes 5 rounds. Aldo Vera, I think it goes 3 rounds.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Hey, Williams is not going 15 minutes.
Can you imagine if it does? It could.
That could be a stack fight if it does.
Yeah, so what it's going to come down to, right? And for every MMA card, right, you're not always going to have crazy finishing rates. But this is the apex, okay? Before we go over to Fight Island, this is the apex. You got, the action is going to be, pressed a little bit more because there's less space to move around. If it's a card with a bunch of decisions, obviously you have to pick the few finishes correctly. So to me, yeah, I think the Nchukwi Pickett fight, somebody's getting finished there.
Yeah, I mean, like you look at it, Moraes Font, I don't think that goes 15 minutes. I think someone gets a TKO at some point.
I don't know if I'm with you on that one. I don't know.
Robertson Santos could go either way on that one.
Yeah,
I'd probably lean decision. Tybura Hardy, I don't think that goes 15 minutes.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think that's a finishing fight.
Pettis Morono,
I think somebody gets finished in that, oddly.
Sajar and Panny, I think, goes 15 minutes.
Yep.
Win Arroyo.
Could be a sneaky finish there.
Could be. We talked about the Pickett fight. Flick Durden. I think it goes to the 3rd round at least. If it doesn't go to this decision. And Yago Carlton, I would think Yagos gets a finish.
If he has enough gas, he should. He should.
Yeah.
This is literally like a big leaguer going down to AAA. Yeah. He should have the advantage here.
Mike says, why not on Arroyo? He probably does get taken down, but doesn't he use his size and physical work over Win?
I mean, he might just be too big for Duran Win. That's possible. And we have seen Duran Win's gas tank. Not the best. Great takedowns. Mental lapses in the jiu-jitsu department. Mm-hmm. Arroyo does have some submissions, but I highly doubt he submits him. I think that if he wins, he ends up hitting Duran with a kick or a knee up the middle when Win is trying to go in for a takedown.
Question for you here, Pete. This comes from Andrew. He says, why are you so high on Vera? He literally has been no one when Aldo never has lost to a bum and looked good first 2 rounds with Jan.
I would agree and say that Marlon Vera, if you told me a couple years ago that I would be picking him over Jose Aldo, I would have told you you're crazy. And I get what you're saying, but a lot of people don't want to believe it until it actually happens. I think that people aren't giving the fact that Aldo has taken so much damage enough credit. He has taken so much damage. He's at a smaller weight class. Marlon Vera has never been finished. Marlon Vera has never been knocked out, never been submitted. Now you're talking about Jose Aldo, who has been finished in his last fight against Peter Yan, lost a split decision to Marlon Moraes. A lot of people thought he won that. Lost to Alexander Volkanovski. Then 2 TKO losses to Max Holloway. So I get what you're saying. He's fought studs. But this is a perfect opportunity for Marlon to kind of take that big name, put it on his resume. And I think that Marlon's just going to be tough and aggressive. And aggressive against somebody who's taken so much damage can definitely work out in his benefit.
Got 20 minutes here left in the program. Of course, be sure to smash that like button right here on YouTube. And if you're not subscribed, you got to hit that subscribe button. We got a ton of shows coming for you to get you ready for today's NFL action, also tomorrow's NFL action. Of course, on Tuesday, we got the start of NBA. As Pete mentioned, our next MMA show will be January the 13th, as we'll get you ready for Calvin Kattar versus Max Holloway. Ooh, that's going to be a good one.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one, man. I can't wait.
Have a feeling we're going to be talking about stacking that fight.
Yep. I don't hate it either. I truthfully don't hate that.
No, that's a great fight to start the year. Tristan says Hardy and Williams or Morono and Yagos.
I like both of those combinations, truthfully. I don't think Hardy gets it done, though, today. I think so. I'd take the one without him.
I feel like Hardy Williams has a higher upside because of their abilities to finish the fight early. But I feel like Morono Yagos is a safer play.
100%. 100%.
Neal or Santos DraftKings GPP?
Santos for me. 8,200. Oh, I can't believe it's so hard because I'm always addicted to the 5-round fights. And Jeff Neal is priced great at 8,400. I'm telling you, man, when people fight karate specialists, Tyron Woodley talked about it extensively. Like, they have to bring in karate specialists to emulate it, right? And it's difficult. It's difficult. You can't get your same output like you normally can.
Just saying, if someone needs a karate specialist, I know a guy.
Yeah, you know a guy. That's right.
I know a guy. You know, I'm sure I could find somebody, who needs one of those guys here in Florida. I'm sure you wouldn't mind escaping that snow for a while.
Yeah, no, I would totally fine with traveling and being a freaking sparring partner.
Michelle Pahea or Greg Hardy, DraftKings GPP.
God.
I feel like the ceiling would be higher on Michelle Pahea.
Agree.
Because I could see that being a situation where accumulation of strikes, maybe a knockdown or two, second, third round finish. Like, you feel like if Hardy's going to win, it's going to be within 5 minutes.
Agree. Yep.
Cola says, with 12 fights on the card, is there less worry about getting different?
I mean, I think it's always good to get different because you always want to kind of just like see what everybody's thinking, see what everybody's doing, and just do it from an ownership standpoint and kind of take the logic out of it just from a tournament standpoint, right? Like, I know it's a bad example, but I mean, like, the people that played Marcus Mariota the other night when Derek Carr went down with injury, like, is that normal? Like, that is the most insane thing in the world, playing backup QBs. But it goes to show you that anybody that rostered him literally shot to the top because they did what nobody else was doing.
Yeah, that is you just take you blindfold, throw the dart, and see what hits.
They got big money, is what they got.
Yeah. I will tell you, in terms of being different, I remember I noticed those creating lineups. I have a lineup on DraftKings that I have 1,600 in salary left over.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I think if you have salary left over, it's good this week.
Yeah, then on FanDuel, I remember I had one lineup. I think I had $4 left.
See, like, the FanDuel is always hard to have so much money remaining just based on the structure.
Sure, yeah. We look, and you talk about that every time we do this show of like, don't, like, on DraftKings, do not feel like you have to spend all $50,000.
I'll set rules in our fantasy cruncher sometimes so that I don't have lineups that are 50K. And the reason I do that is because, like, more often than not, 50K lineups either are split amongst thousands of people or that it just doesn't end up being optimal.
Logan says Vera and Robertson will be in the optimal.
If they win, I probably agree with you.
I guess the question is, the Robertson Santos fight, it's got to be a finish for it to be an optimal. I don't see a 3-round decision making it optimal with them, even though solid salaries on both platforms.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know there's a lot of comments about Vera. The one thing I'll say about Marlon Vera, my concern is sometimes he does tend to be a slow starter, even though he wasn't a slow starter in the O'Malley fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. I think that I'm okay with being a little early on the Marlon Vera train. Some people that thought that he was going to go in there against Sean O'Malley, they looked really smart in that. I thought Marlon, he can be hit, and Jose Aldo can hit him, especially if he starts slow. I just wonder, how does Aldo respond if Vera cracks him?
And by the way, the Carl Robertson fight, yes, that was scratched. That was, I believe that was COVID related, I want to say.
Yes.
Yeah, at this point, you just kind of figured it all COVID related.
It is, yeah.
Who's a fighter we're not talking about that may surprise us tonight?
I think it could be in the Sajara Eubanks Pannie Kianzad fight. I think that's a fight that a lot of people just in general aren't respecting. Women's MMA in general, I mean, it seems like people take like a sexist approach to it, and they don't want to deal with it because of the volatility. And I understand it is volatile, especially when you're on the wrong side of a armbar from guard. But if it does stay standing, I will say that Eubanks and Kianzad could put up a great performance from a DFS aspect. Kianzad has great volume, so Eubanks is going to have to match that volume. But what Eubanks excels at is taking her opponents down. She can take down Pannie Kianzad, potentially work towards a finish. But Eubanks' cardio drops off a cliff, and maybe Pannie comes on late. Mm-hmm. So that could be a fight that was, maybe live betting. If I could live bet, I definitely would. But I do have a decent amount of that fight just as a sneaky fight.
Yeah, I just, Eubanks, she's way more intriguing on FanDuel than she is DraftKings. Way 100%. More intriguing.
I mean, Eubanks right now is, at 14, she's literally the Tisha Torres of the card, right? Mm-hmm. Like, where FanDuel screwed up on the pricing, take advantage of it, it could work out.
Yeah, that's a weird pricing. When I saw that, I literally thought, I was like, is that a mistake?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the dynamic of how their pricing is. It's hard to kind of make things different.
FanDuel GPP question: Jimmy Flick or Grant Neal? I would prefer Flick.
Agree. In a GPP.
Yeah. Cash would be Neal.
Yeah,
I think the fight goes 25 minutes.
Yeah, and like, Neal definitely possesses some great power. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes, so he can excel in that Stephen Thompson fight. I just think it could be a low volume success where, like, yeah, he gets the win, but, say does performance in the 80s, maybe even low 90s, make the optimal when there are so many dogs and good spots for other fighters. I don't know.
We always talk about playing the ownership game.
Okay.
What about playing the ownership game and going with Michelle Pahea over Chaos Williams?
Yeah, I think it's a valid argument. I mean, like, Michelle Pahea looked like a monster at weigh-ins. Now, you have to look at that from both sides and say, like, he is always good early, and he's crazy and aggressive early, and has started to really learn how to take people down when he needs to and be a little bit more intelligent than he has been in the past. But he's got, like, 2-round gas tank, and I just wonder how tired he gets if he also gets hurt on top of being tired.
In terms of the fight aspect of it, totally taking DFS out of the equation, you got a very aggressive fighter in Chaos Williams coming forward, but then you got a capoeira style coming from Michelle Pahea. If you're Chaos Williams, how do you make sure you're not overexposing yourself to that style?
Michelle Pahea could literally knock out Chaos Williams here. like, and put him on a highlight reel. Like, he definitely could. It's so hard to say because you don't know what Michel Pereira is going to do. He's going to be very unpredictable, and which is, a strength, a benefit in his fighting style. But, you saw it, what was it, against Tristan Connolly? Is that name correct?
Yes,
Is that,
that's when he lost.
Yeah, he lost because he was being silly. Like, he's playing like he's button mashing on Tekken right now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's just completely reckless. And at the UFC level, people make you pay for your mistakes. And I wonder if Chaos Williams can do that.
I also wonder, what if that fight hits the third round? Who's got the gas tank?
Williams, I think.
You think so? Okay.
I do. Less grappling advantage. The grappling advantage goes to Michel Pereira, but I do think that Williams probably has the cardio. Hard to tell, though, right? Like, his average time is 29 seconds in the UFC octagon. So what is he really capable of? We'll have to see. This is a good test for him.
Look, there's so many fights that I'm really intrigued to watch. Like, Chaos Williams Pereira is just one of them. Like, just because, like, I kind of sit there and go, how can this fight suck?
Yeah.
How does it not deliver?
It's literally an interesting one. And I just really like seeing Michel Pereira fight. And after doubting Chaos Williams, I really like what I'm seeing too.
Yeah, I mean, like, as I look at it, obviously the main event has so much meaning in terms of it, in terms of the 170-pound division. Aldo, how does he bounce back? Maurice Font's probably one of my favorite just fights. What does Rob Font look like coming back from knee surgery? And I'm interested to see what Jimmy Flick does. That's another one that really kind of sticks out to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Cole has got a nice comment, and he goes, I don't know, it seems like everyone was off Williams' last few fights and he won. This time everyone is on Williams, and it seems like this time he might lose. It's always good to get off that train a little early, you know what I mean? And it's a great point.
Well, I mean, look, it's anytime you have a fighter who comes in and, they do well the first 2-3 fights, sometimes you got to find that one spot where you're like, you know what, this may be the spot to go against. So whether we're talking about DFS or maybe you're betting on the fights, like, to me, you got to find those spots.
Yeah, recency bias is a thing. I mean, people want to be safe, so they're going to take the most recent performance and kind of hold that to the high standard.
Oh no, that's spot on. But look, I'm looking forward to watching these fights. I mean, of course, we'll be in Slack throughout the fight, so you can chat with myself and Pete. I know Josh will be in there as well. We've got obviously it's a big sporting day. As not only do we got UFC, we got NFL, we got NBA. I want to say 3 NBA games. I know NBA Live 4 Lock will be on 6 o'clock. So it's I'm gonna put some NBA lives in.
I already got mine done. I'm ready.
Dude, it's crazy because I bought my NBA League Pass last night. Crazy that I can't watch my Magic play. That's 90 minutes away from me, but I can watch the Raptors who are playing 20 minutes away from me.
It's so silly, right? Blackouts are so silly.
I know. It's just God, yeah.
The blackouts are so silly.
I'm surprised the Magic didn't try to stop that because they could lose a fan base.
Close to it. I mean, like, how many people now might start rooting for the Raptors because they're on TV?
Yeah, it looks like they had a pretty good crowd last night. 3,200 was the max they let in. Morono or Font FanDuel GPP?
Well, that is a good one. Font is 11. Morono is 10. FanDuel boost to takedowns. Pettis is not going to try to take down Morono. Marias can take down Font. We have seen Font get taken down plenty of times in the Ricky Samoan fight. I don't foresee that being it. I know Marlon Moraes likes to keep the fight on the feet. But I would probably favor Font in that particular one. What about you? It's a close one. It's weird. Weird for FanDuel.
I might be more interested in Morono. I think he's got a higher upside of winning.
I do agree with that.
Josh says, who's everyone got in the first fight? That's pretty clear.
Hey, let me tell you. I have plenty of Carlton minus as me standing alone on an island waving my arms, okay? Like, I'm okay with it because if Giagos doesn't have a gas tank, these are all big what-ups because Giagos should win this fight, Jason, right? He's a minus 325 favorite, has a takedown advantage, 3-4 in the UFC. You know, one thing is he's always struggled to make weight. Fights at 160 pounds today, cut weight on a couple days, always had poor cardio. Carlton minus coming down from 170 pounds, maybe competing at a higher weight class will help him in this situation. If it stays on the feet and Giagos runs out of gas, don't be surprised if Carlton steals it on the scorecards. But, you know, as far as like if I had to pick a fighter who's going to win, Giagos going to win.
What's your thoughts on Giagos' stamp ability?
He's good. I mean, he's good. He's pretty good. Has a submission ability as well, takedowns. So definitely can mix things up. Whereas Carlton really has like a one-way road, and it's just striking.
Yeah. We'll kind of get a couple more questions here before we get out of here. Cola says, you guys say you are more on Font over Vera?
No. Nope.
Yeah, Nick mentions about Giagos' stamina issues. Yeah, that's a big question mark. That's a big question mark.
Right. And the minus like can keep it on the feet. And you say, like, I've seen plenty of Giagos' fights where like round 2, he seems gassed, like the start of round 2. And that's with full camps. So how is he in this matchup? But if he's able to take down Carlton minus and just lay on top of him, you shouldn't be too tired from doing that.
Over under 4 takedowns for Giagos.
Probably right at 4. I say push.
Yeah. So, but the fights are about to start. We'll be here before the next UFC card. 3 weeks away. This actually ends a 24-week run for the UFC. Crazy. It's been 24 straight weeks. Thanks
for joining us for 24 straight weeks, man. I mean, goodness. MMA DFS is taking off. You know, the big tournament last night filled this morning. Their second big tournament. You know, I think it filled, and it goes to show you that MMA DFS has taken off and everybody enjoys it.
And I believe when we come back, we will have 3 fight cards in 10 days.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. Like I'm going to have everything prepped and ready. So, you know, good luck tonight, everybody. Please hit that like button for us. Get us over 100 likes. And if you have some good lineups, screenshot them, share them with us. We would love to see that. And, of course, myself and Pete will be in our premium Slack account, so chat along with us as we watch the fights. So that's going to do it for UFC Vegas number 17, live before lock, right here on Awesemo.com.